Let's get to the Brooklyn Brawler. Ding, ding, ding. Hey, folks, if you're a fan of wrestling, you know the word jobber. You've heard it before. It has very early origins. Merriam-Webster dictionary describes it as a person who works by the job, which I guess in the early days of professional wrestling, that made sense. Also, other definitions describe it as a person who does casual or occasional work. Today, they've made it more PC. They call people who do this enhancement talent. But my guest today may have started as what you might call a jobber, but he became, oh man, so much more than that for the WWE, as he helped launch the careers of some of the biggest names in the history of professional wrestling, including Bret Hart, Mark Henry, yes, the Ultimate Warrior, and you ever heard of someone called The Rock? He's doing okay these days, just to name a few. Steve Lombardi, better known to many of you as the Brooklyn Brawler, joins us here today on Prime Time. Steve, great to have you.
Yes. Great to be here, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I tell you, it has been a while, and we were just talking before we started rolling here. Over 3 decades with the WWF, WWE, and I said I think that maybe the only one who might have a few years on you, if any, is Howard Finkel. It's amazing.
And it's actually 4 decades.
Yeah. Well,
80s, 90s, 2000s, 2010s.
Wow.
And I can remember like yesterday you saying on Superstars, coming up next, the Brooklyn Brawler with Bobby Heenan against the Red Rooster. Do you remember all that?
Oh, absolutely. And, I was thinking about it. If you count all the hours in television, you may have had a lot more FaceTime than a lot of the other superstars in the WWF, because you were on pretty much every single show, plus all those matches that we did for international. So you were on TV a lot.
I would say so. I would say I wrestled every wrestler in the industry except for a few. And like you laugh about The Rock, I knew The Rock when he had $7 to his name. I know him since he's 8 years old. I wrestled his dad's first match in WWE, and then I wrestled Rock's first match in WWE.
Wow, that's amazing.
That cool?
Yeah, and you mentioned he had $7. He has a production company. I think it's called $7.
Because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve, we've got a lot of ground to cover. Initially, I want to talk about where you grew up. Of course, the Brooklyn Brawler was because you grew up in Brooklyn, but you did it in a different way. The way you came into professional wrestling is very different than a lot of people. We'll get to that, but first, tell me a little bit about what it was like to grow up in that part of the world. I lived for a number of years, even before I went to work for the WWF back east, and I actually lived in Manhattan. But it's a different world to describe to people what it's like to grow up in that tri-city. We're talking or tri-state, I should say, but especially in the boroughs there, and in Brooklyn and Queens and all that other area that is right there by Manhattan.
Yeah, it sure was. It was a different world back then than it is today. Yeah. When I grew up in Brooklyn, it was basically Italian American neighborhood. Right. Every family and every home was Italian, and I went to New Utrecht High School, which people wouldn't remember the show Welcome Back, Kotter, but you would.
Yeah, absolutely. Vinny Barbarino.
That's the high school I went to. That's the high school I went to, New Utrecht High School. I'm a legitimate sweat hog.
No, because that.
But you know what's funny, Sean?
Yeah.
I say that show to people today, the younger wrestlers, and they never heard of it.
But did they? I know they used like the facade of the building, like that was actually on the show. But I can't remember. Was it in Brooklyn? Did they have? Was that where the show?
No, they shot in Hollywood. They shot in Hollywood, and they used the exteriors of the building for the open and the clothes.
But did it play? Did the fictional show? Did it take place in Brooklyn? Was that? I can't remember if that's where it was actually.
The show, and I believe it was done in Hollywood.
Yeah, but I think.
But I know.
I was just saying the characters, though. I thought was. You think they're legitimate characters from the Utrecht? Is that what you're asking? Yeah, I think
that I know of. The story. We had Vinny Barbarino in there, and we had people similar to that. There was we had the football team wearing all green jackets, and then we had the guys who wore jeans and leather vests. There was certain persona that did occur back then.
Yeah. But I was just wondering if the storyline was based in Brooklyn. I didn't remember because I didn't use the name of the high school. I don't know. I'm just getting off track here, but
it's New Utrecht High School.
Yeah. Well, but you know, when people talk about that time, and you know, everybody got around in a subway. It's hard to explain to people how you could get anywhere, you know, in the city. And the city is 5 boroughs, folks. And you could go, you know, you go out to Shea, you could go to Yankee Stadium, you could go into the city and go to the Garden. It must have been a gigantic playground for kids when they grew up there.
Oh yeah, you jump on the B train, you could be at the Garden in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes it so valuable. Homes over there are so valuable. It's incredible. Yeah. Where you living, Sean?
I'm out in Arizona now, but I spent.
Oh, you're in. Okay.
Yeah, I spent a good 20 years back there, and you know, so I know it well. But I always wondered what it must have been like when you know, as a kid growing up there, because you could go anywhere. You could go out to the island. You could, you know, be at the beach, Coney Island if you wanted to, and you know, it was all like a day trip. And I just thought, God, that must have been a lot of fun doing that.
It was cool, and it was only like 75 cents for the subway. I don't even know what it is today. I would just walk about 4 or 5 blocks, go to the subway. I could go anywhere I wanted to in the city. I could go anywhere I wanted. That's how I got in the wrestling business. Yeah. I got together with a bunch of friends, took the train, we went to the Garden, you know, and then, you know, the history. It's all history from there. Yeah.
But growing up, you mentioned like this traditional Italian family. People have, you know, a lot of families live together, and I think your grandparents lived in the same house with like split levels. You know, they had like different apartments. You guys lived upstairs or downstairs.
You read my book. Did you read my book?
Absolutely. I do a lot of research. I do more than just the book.
Because I go into depth with all that in the book.
Yeah. Of course I read your book. And folks, we're going to plug that a few times. It's Brawler Unfiltered, and you can still get it. I got it through Audible.
Audio book.
Yeah, I got it through
Audible, iTunes, it's on everything. Yeah. But I put it on Kindle now because some people like to read. But you know what the funniest thing? Yeah. You know what the funniest thing? You were there on my transition from Steve Lombardi to Brooklyn Brawler, correct?
Oh yeah, yes, I was there. For
because I remember you doing the plugs. Who was the world champion when you were there?
Well, Hulk, of course, was you know, rode that wave for as long as I was there, basically, and then Randy, of course, you know, yeah. So
Hulk did so much to me. Hulk went to Vince and told Vince, I want Steve Lombardi to travel with me everywhere. He says, because I cannot go to airports, I cannot go to ticket counters, I can't go here, and Vince okayed it, and I got to travel with Hulk Hogan for almost 2 years. Yeah.
Well, and we are going to get into that, but I want to talk about, you know, the origins of how you got into the business, and I mentioned before that you really didn't do it in a traditional way. Not that there really is one, but you know, either a lot of guys who come up through families and that connection, or they find a wrestling school, they get somebody to train them. But you basically, you know, showed up in New York City at these Garden shows, and basically just kept showing up, and eventually. Arnold Skolin said, you know, kid, if you want to do something, then come out to one of the events. Now, and I guess maybe you were just naive at the time, but, you know, and wanted to do this. But when you showed up, I think out on Long Island, I think it was, you basically got stretched. I mean, it wasn't like they're giving you this great lesson.
Yeah. I did. They threw me. Well, the first time I went there, he blew me off. Then I came back the next time, and then he sent me to the Savoy. We went to the Savoy. That's where I met him. It was a bar right by the Garden where all the wrestlers go. Right. So he sends me to Shirley, Long Island, and then he starts talking Carney. And even the guys today don't know what Carney is. It's a language spoken between the wrestlers, you know, with the Z-Ling, the Kiazek, the Kiazar. It was around when you were around.
Kiazai, Kiazen, Spiazik,
Kiazar. Yeah, you got it. You're gonna get everybody confused because nobody knows that anymore. Only circus people. So anyway, I go in the arena, and then Skolin tells me to get in the ring. And then he talks in Carney to like Mr. Fuji, Ray Stevens, Jimmy Snooker, and they all jump in the ring. Now I'm saying, what the hell is going to happen to me now? So he goes, Jimmy's going to slam you, then Ray Stevens is going to slam you, then Snooker's going to slam you, and I want you to keep going around. And I'm like, okay, I can tough this out. So I just run into there, and they're just scooping me up and slamming me, slam, slam, slam. It's hurting, but I'm not really letting on.
Yeah.
So they're all laughing. All the boys are around the ring. This is before the matches even started.
Right, and they're really shooting on these slams. I mean, they're not just.
They're drilling me. They're drilling me. You know, they want to teach me a lesson, the young kid, you know.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, they all leave the ring. Skolin goes, "Not you, kid." And I'm like, "Oh, shit, what's going to happen now?" He says he throws Carney to Mr. Saito. Mr. Saito jumps in the ring. I go, "What the hell is this?" You know, he was a scary individual, if you remember. He walks up to me, and he snatches one arm to my side, grabs me in the belly to belly, and he gives me a suplex. He looks at Skolin, and he goes, "Heavy." And I'm saying to myself, wow, yeah, I've been working out. You know, I look, you know, he must mean I'm really big. Meaning, you know what he was meaning.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? And when he gave me the belly to belly, oh my God, I said, this is not for me. It's going to kill me. You know, because it's my first falls. It's my first bumps.
Yeah,
and I just kept going back.
But they were testing you. Probably, you know, Skolin was probably just hoping, you know, okay, now he'll stop bugging the crap out of us. Or he's going to stick around. I mean, that's basically what it would come down to, right, back then.
Yep. And you know what I did? I stuck around. I kept coming back and coming back and coming back until they finally said, show up at TV, Skolin said.
Yeah. And
it was Gorilla Monsoon back then, too.
Yeah, but as I mentioned, though, you didn't really have any formal training at all. I mean, unless you know, something you didn't talk about, but... I really wonder when you would show up to these TVs, and folks, when back then, they really were people, you know, were jobbers, were basically raw meat for these superstars. And there's not a chance in the world that they're going to try and work with you. They're out there to beat the living shit out of you, really, to make them look tough and mean. So, but you didn't even have the training. I was really wondering when you talked about it that what those first matches that you had must have been like, because it was you'd had some judo training, but what were you like out there? I mean, really, that when you got in the ring with these guys.
The first match I had was against SD Jones. It was a house show somewhere, and they threw me in the ring. I borrowed some tights, borrowed some boots. I went in the ring. Anxieties. People will never understand when you walk to the ring. You get anxieties and you get winded just from the atmosphere. So I get into the ring, and I'm kind of freezing. I hear SD going, relax, kid. You know, and he's trying to help me, and it wasn't very good, put it that way. And it wasn't taped, which I was very happy about.
Yeah. But they didn't really smarten you up at all. I mean, they probably, you know, tell you this is what we're going to do, but for the most part, it's pretty stiff.
Yeah, they're trying to tell me it's real. They're trying to show me like this is what it's going to be like. You'll never make it, kid. You'll never make it, kid. It was like that. But I was just getting more determined, more and more determined.
So was all of this? I mean, as far as your education went, it was pretty much just showing up to these TVs, seeing who they paired you up with, and then either, you know, getting destroyed or actually learning something from these matches. Was that it?
Yeah, what it was all squash jobs. So you go in the ring, but all you have to do is be able to get beat up, and they know what the finish is, and they walk you through that. And if you don't do it, they get you through it. You know, it was scary. I mean, it was scary. And the one day it changed. It was.
But did you get, before you get to that break, Steve? Did you get hurt? Was there any? I mean, like somebody really hurt you?
Just aches just aches and pains. You know, your back hurts. Nothing serious. No hospital type injury.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, you know, they're coming to go to Allentown and go to the TVs. So Skolin says, "Hey kid, show up in Allentown. We do TVs in Allentown and Reading every 3 weeks." And I said, "Oh, great." So I go to Allentown, and I show up, and I get there early, and I'm standing there, and I watch all the boys start to walk in before the matches, and then I see Skolin walk right by me, and he ignores me. He don't even know me. He's like oblivious to me. Yeah. So I go up to I look. There's a blackboard in the dressing room, and they put all the names on the blackboard. Who's facing who? Who's facing who? Who's facing who? I look at the thing. My name's not on there. But Skolin told me to be a TV.
Yeah.
So I go up to Monsoon. I go, go, Gorilla, Steve Lombardi. I says, Mr. Skolin told me to be here, but yet I wasn't on the board. He goes, simple explanation, my boy. Arnold Skolin did not tell me you were here. But be prepared. Next TV, you will be working. I said, fantastic. But you remember how Gino talked?
Yeah, that's very good. You know, and he was one of those people also that he had this tough exterior initially. And if you didn't, I don't know, earn his respect or, you know, do something that made him think you were worth anything, he didn't have time for you. But if he liked you, I mean, he would he helped a lot of people along the way. And it sounds like initially he took a liking to you and did help you.
Oh, he helped me so much that when I first got into business, I got married. I'm married 32 years now. And I got married in Vegas. And then he comes up to me and he goes, why didn't you tell me you were going to Vegas? I would have been your best man and I would have got you the best hotel and this and that. I said, oh, damn, to my wife. I said, we would have been hooked up. Yeah. But he, you know, because he was Mr. Vegas back then. He used to go down there 20, 30 grand.
Yeah, when he wasn't going to Atlantic City.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. You're right.
He was at my wedding, too. Was he? Yeah, he was at my wedding, yeah. Him and Hal.
He told me afterwards.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, he was just an unbelievable guy. I mean, I loved, and I would not have survived my first year in the business if it wasn't for Gino. He was, you know, he was so good to me and smartened me up in a lot of ways of, you know, just, you know, surviving, you know, because you remember back then, Steve, when everything was colliding then when Vince started, you know, we're talking after 85 when he started to bring in people from the outside really because he wanted to step up his, you know, the production value. I mean, Vince has always been very, you know, very wise about that. But you remember at that point when they're bringing these people in, it was a big collision because a lot of people didn't like people from the outside, like you said, you know, the whole talking carny and shutting you out, and you really did have to earn their respect. And if it wasn't for those guys, there's no way I would have survived. I'm sure it was must have been really hard for you coming in as well. And I don't know how long it took you.
Different business than it is today, that's for sure. Now you go to the training camp in Orlando, they train you, then when you're ready, they send you to NXT, and then, I mean, they got a whole different thing now.
Yeah. Now, Steve.
Go ahead. Yeah. No, I was going to say before they had territories all over the country. Yeah. And then Vince would just pluck the top stars out of all the territories and bring them in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. Until he, you know, steamrolled them and basically put them all out of business and changed the business forever. But I want to ask you when people are jobbers, you know, they're getting work basically every week. If you're decent, they'll keep bringing you back and have you, you know, travel. And at that point in time, the WWF, WWE was pretty much based in the Northeast. So the shows that they did, besides the fact they're syndicating them, they're trying to get them all over the country, but the tapings were done pretty much in the Northeast, so you could stay in that area. But you could be one of those guys. And I remember we'd go to a place and they'd have their local guys that would show up and they would destroy them. What was it though that separated you? And I know you had one very big break. Talk about that. Like I said, what separated you from just being these guys that showed up every week, and then also that big break?
Okay, the thing that separated me from it happened in one day. We were in Allentown. Ricky Steamboat started. Now he was a big star from Hawaii to Charlotte's. You know, he was a big star. I see my name on the blackboard against Ricky Steamboat. So I go up. I was nervous and happy at the same time. I go up to him and go, Mr. Steamboat, I think I'm wrestling you tonight. He goes, there's one thing. He goes, I don't believe in beating a dish rag. I says, whatever you want, sir. So that's the first time I'm doing leapfrogs. He's leapfrogging me. He's taking big bumps for me. He's doing all this for me. He gave me the first time that I actually gave me some offense. I go back to the dressing room. Tito Santana, I'll never forget, walks up to me and goes, how did it feel? I'm saying, how did it feel? He thought it was weird that all of a sudden I'm a jobber and now I'm having a competitive match with Ricky Steamboat, one of the hottest wrestlers in the country.
Yeah,
that's how that changed. As far as the big break, Bobby Heenan was everything.
Yeah,
Bobby Heenan chose me to to be with him because he had all his guys, Kurt Hennig, the Giant, Andre, Rick Rude, and I can't remember every single one. They were all busy.
Yeah, no kidding. He had quite a stable.
Different angles. So he says, I got Terry Taylor here. He says, he turned on me, and we have a feud going. I have nobody to work with. I'm going to take you into my stable, and I'm going to take you and bring you to the top, and you could battle against Terry Taylor. Yeah, that's when he became the Red Rooster.
Right. Well, and Bobby you're talking about when we were transformed into the Brooklyn Brawler, but prior to that, you really after Steamboat, and I guess the other boys must have taken notice that there's a big difference between going out there and absolutely destroying a guy and somebody who can go out there and make it look like this guy's got a chance, and that makes the guy look even better. But they wouldn't trust a lot of these guys, so they go out there and just absolutely destroy them. So at this point, after that Ricky Steamboat match, did the other boys start taking notice that, hey, I want to work with that guy because he's going to make me look really good?
Yeah, I assume so. They would put me with whoever they put me with. I'd work 3 times. It'd be 3 hours. So I was saying to myself the whole time, I'm going out there, I'm working with the Iron Sheik, I'm taking the camel clutch, I'm going out there with Piper, I'm getting beat by him. But I still have enough energy to go out there and wrestle Bob Orton Jr. So I thought to myself, I looked like Superman inside the building itself because it was weeks. Oh, right, yeah. Yes, yeah. I looked I looked better than everybody else getting beat up. Yeah. Only because I kept going back and I kept doing it. I was learning in the ring. It's like on-the-job training. I just kept learning more. You got to get more accustomed to it.
So was there a point that you realized, and you talk about this in your book, that where you realize that you've got this talent for doing this? And I don't know if initially you had in your head, I want to be a big superstar, be on that stage, or was there a realization, say, I'm really good at doing this? And you say you never minded losing. Explain that.
I never minded losing because I knew that was my role. I was there to make the other guy look really good and lose at the end. And everybody would always say, oh, you lost so many matches, you're a loser. And I'm saying to myself, thank you. I convinced you. Yeah. It was a different feeling a different mindset in my mind than your casual fan.
But what was it about you in that ring, though, that you were able to make these other superstars look so good, and you helped launch a lot of these guys' careers? I'm sure there were other enhancement talent that was good.
Yeah, but I became a fixture. I was like every TV. Other talent wasn't, as frequently on TV, and they were utilizing me more. So I'm working 3 times a night, 2 days, 3 times a night, 2 days, and I'm doing this every single 3 weeks. So I'm improving. My hip toss is getting higher. I never forget Iron Sheik going, "Oh baby, you take bigger hip toss than Iron Sheik." He say stuff like that to me, and I would get encouraged. I said, "Holy shit!" Sheik just said I took a high hip toss like him. And I used to, like, when I got big up for a slam, I'd flutter my legs to make it look a little bit different. You know what I mean? To make it look better. Yeah. I tried like little things that were different. Guy punches me in the face, I spit. Oh my God, he just knocked his teeth out. Things like that. Little things that kind of made it a little more special.
Yeah, and I remember some of the matches where we'd have a behemoth. We wanted to show, just their incredible strength. And somebody like Mark Henry or something. And, you could go out there and oversell it. People, that's what would happen a lot of the times. It would be too much. But I remember watching you, and it just looked, like that just happened. I mean, that guy has that kind of strength to toss his body, to the other side of the ring.
Oh, yeah. I knew, I looked at the guy, and I seen his strengths. Like, I knew Mark Henry was the strong man. So I hit him with a tackle, I take the fall. I go to hit the rope again, I tell him to get me in a bear hug. He just muscles me in the bear hug. He could hold me there for an hour, I punch him in the head, he drops me. But if I work with a guy like Shawn Michaels, it'd be a whole different ballgame. It'd be reverse, double leapfrog, go for a reverse monkey flip. I'll move on the elbow. You know, it's like a whole different ball game. Mm-hmm. So you just got to adjust to your opponent.
Is there a different kind of ring psychology for somebody who did what you did in the ring? And I know you're still doing it, but is there a different psychology?
Yeah, the psychology is I wanted to get booed.
But I mean, that's like a heel, but it's different from a heel though too, because your job is to set these guys apart from the other superstars, to make them bigger than life to people in the crowd. So I'm just wondering, because you talk about ring psychology a lot, and I wondered if there's a different approach than say a heel.
Well, the psychology that I would have as a jobber in the early 80s when I first started would be, when he hits me, I want to take a crisper bump. Like when he gives me a hip toss, a higher hip toss. Whatever he does to me, I want it to look like it hurt me more than it hurt the last guy that he did. Mm-hmm. So I would always think in terms of making it look more realistic.
Yeah, and it worked. I think that's why a lot of the guys liked working with you. Not just because of the familiarity, but like I said, when you did those moves, it wasn't over the top. That a lot of times you would see these guys that would overdo it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, flip three.
They wouldn't make it look. It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't like it was like it actually happened. It was just okay. Right.
Right. I always felt like Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, was a better wrestler than Rick Rude, but Rick Rude would draw more money. Why? Because Kurt Hennig was impressing the boys, because when he kicked his legs, he'd flip over 3 times. And the boys said, wow, what a work. And Rick Rude would be arrogant and just be like kicking and punching. You know what I mean? So people are like, that's real.
Yeah. I mean, and Kurt had no problem selling for you,
No, Kurt was fantastic. But the boys could appreciate his talent a lot, because what he did was very, 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 he was very agile. I mean, Kurt was one of a kind.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
But Rick Rude had this arrogance with that little gyration he did, and he had all those pictures on his tights and all that. I mean, he had drawing power. Yeah. That's the way I always feel. I use them too for analogy, because I see it that way. They were at the same time. They were there at the same time.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned when we started talking here about your relationship with Hulk Hogan and with Terry. Why did that click? Because it wasn't just that he, thought you were a good guy to work with or whatever, but he took you with him. I mean, and when he was really taking off, how did that happen?
Well, I was marking out for Rocky III. He came fresh off of Sylvester Stallone in Rocky III, so he was like bigger than life to me. So I was like a mark. You know what I mean? I walked up to him, oh, yeah, Mr. Hogan, you were great. You were great. And he'd be like, stop marking out, brother. You know what I mean? Like he acted like he didn't like it, but apparently
but I was going to say, I would think that he'd be like, get this guy away from me.
Yeah, well, he was saying that. He was saying stuff like that, but he was meaning inside. Yeah. Thank you, But he was an experienced traveler, great guy. I don't have a bad thing to say about Hulk.
So how did you guys hit it off though? I mean, just because
we hit it off great. I did all the driving. He loved me.
You what?
I did all the driving. He loved me. But he was funny. He used to I used to stay at his house sometimes in Connecticut. He had like a condo there. He was married to Linda at the time, and she would fix us a big lunch, and then we would drive up to Boston, and he would keep giving me these big chicken salad sandwiches. He'd go, brother, it's so big they won't believe if they beat you. He was doing stuff like that. I mean, it was too much. He wanted me to just work out and just get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they won't believe it. But that's not what I was looking for. I wanted you to look great when you wrestled me. I didn't want to outlook you. But he's great guy.
So in those early years, what years are we talking? Because I'm trying to understand. What peak of fame he was at? Huh?
That was before Brooklyn Brawler, pre-Brooklyn Brawler, so pre-1989.
Okay, but I mean, he was pretty much
84, 85, maybe.
Yeah, so he was very much already pretty famous, or was he? Was it just before it really just exploded, where he couldn't go anywhere?
He was already on the front cover. he was already on the front cover of Sports Illustrated as the most recognizable sports figure in the world or the country, whatever they said. I mean, he was on the Tonight Show with Joan Rivers. I mean, he was way up there back then.
So what was it like to travel with him? I mean, you couldn't go anywhere without people mobbing him. Right?
It was pretty cool. But he said to me, he goes, "Brother, Vince said you travel with me, but you're going to get a lot of heat." And I'm like, "Well, why?" He goes, "Because you're going to be in first class all the time. All your agents are going to be in the back. You're going to be getting in limousines with me and Learjets with me, and the boys are not going to like it." That's what he told me.
And did that heat come?
Which was not really, because everybody was kissing his butt so much they accepted me.
Yeah.
But it was funny. A young kid like me, in a Learjet with Cyndi Lauper, Mr. T, and Hulk Hogan. Did you mention that?
Yeah, that must have been pretty heady. I don't know how you handled it during that period of time, but it must have been. It was like traveling with a rock band, I guess, right? I mean, a rock star.
Yeah. I mean, you make me keep going faster, brother. You drive like you got bicycle tires, and I'm speeding. We must have got pulled over twice a night. But every time we got pulled over, all the cops go is, all I want is an autograph. All I want is an autograph. But today it would be different. It'd be, Lieutenant, we got Hogan. You know what I mean? It's different now. Yeah. The world was different. The wrestler had a lot of privileges back then.
So I think it was during that time when you were traveling around with Hulk that you met your wife, right, in Detroit?
Yeah.
Was that during that period of time when you were with Hulk?
Yeah, it was a limousine. We used to get the limousines. We used to go like to Detroit once a month. And then my wife was working for the limousine company that would rent the limos, but Hogan would always stay back. Right. I would do all the paperwork.
Go up.
And then I'd see her like once a month, once every 2 months. Then all of a sudden Hogan goes, "Brother, I know you like that girl. Take the limo for the night." That's what he did. That's what he told me. So I said, "Holy shit!" I told my wife. I said, "You want to go out tonight?" But I won't be out until about 11:30 because Hulk Hogan's on last. She didn't even know who Hulk Hogan was. She was not a wrestling fan at all.
Really? She just knew he was some famous guy.
Yeah, she said she used to flip the channel, see wrestling, and to a girl, I guess it's different. She goes, she just passed right by. She never really got into it.
Yeah. Oh, you mentioned, it's funny you mentioned about, not really getting out of the arena till 11:30. The way those house shows worked, and many people listening I know have attended house shows, but the whole business at that time was based on house shows. Really, that's how you guys made your money from the gates.
Right.
And whoever was the big draw would be on last for many. Pretty right. Self-explanatory there. You want to keep the crowd there. And I remember, Stephen, and one of the things I really, because I wasn't from the business, I had to get my education once I started working there. But one thing I always thought was just so cool is that you would go to an arena, and the first thing anybody did was go into the locker room, and they would shake every single person's hand in that locker room right down the line.
Absolutely.
Because
with the loose handshake.
Yes, like butter, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of because you worked like butter was, soft if you were really good.
But not today. You do that today, the wrestlers will get on you. They don't want that today.
Yeah, well, it's a whole different world because the reason for that, and of course it was traditional, is that you're basically thanking that guy for helping to put food on your table for your family. Because you get Hulk there, you're going to have a big house, and everybody's going to make money. And of course, the money was divided up considering where you were on that card. But that was, I always just thought that was just such an incredible, honorable tradition. If they don't do it today, I think that's too bad. Because
they don't do they shake hands, but they just don't do that buttery handshake. They just do a firm.
But not everybody. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So if you go around and every single person in that locker room, because they felt every single person in this locker room is helping me to make money, and I'm glad to be here. And
right.
It's too bad that.
It's true. And
well,
so some people would have some people would have a few egos and it'd be cliquish. They go to a different side. Yeah. And like if you remember one story in the book where I met Snooker a few times in the bar, this boy, and then when I went to the dressing room, all of a sudden I'm giving all the handshakes, and all of a sudden I go up to Snooker, he goes, lovely brother, I remember you from the bar. You know, he was real friendly to me. You know, he really was a very friendly guy. I want to talk with him for years too.
Yeah, absolutely. He was always a great guy. I never had any problems with Jimmy. But he was one tough son of a bitch, though. That's for sure. I mean,
God. I remember I remember one time when the cops put handcuffs on him and he broke the handcuffs.
Yeah.
I mean, there was all kinds of stories. But you see what happened. Back then, the boys were not as diligent as they would be today. As like they would miss towns, you know, they'd have marital problems. They do this, they do that, and I would fill in all the holes. So my deal was I show up to every town in the beginning, and if somebody is missing, I get a payday and I get to work. If they don't, I lose my trans and I lose my payday.
Yeah.
And I made a good living that year. I made a good living that year. Very, very rarely.
Yeah. If I could ask, I mean, what was the money like then? I mean, from the time you started, I imagine it was probably nothing. From probably didn't cover gas money to where what'd you make then?
Well, I'm not going to tell you figures, but all I can say is it was a lot of money for the time. I was a young kid. It was like 23, 24 years old, and I'm making $500 one night.
Okay.
You know, stuff like that. So, you know, to me, that was a lot. But when I was traveling with Hogan, I'd make more money because I'm in the A-town, the big town, and I'd work twice. I'd work first as Brooklyn Brawler, and then I'd wait for Hogan last, and I'd pull away in a limo with Hogan.
Yes, I guess in your 20s, man, you're living large.
I'm living large, but there's one thing that Hogan wasn't telling me about, a little thing called taxes. Because at the end of the year, I got hit with a hell of a bill.
That's a tough lesson.
But,
yeah. But like a lot of those jobbers, right? They'd show up and I don't know what they paid them, $50. I mean, you know, these guys just wanted to do TV.
If you worked a house show, they gave you a normal payday, whatever it was. Everybody got different, you know, a few hundred, 500. But if you were TV and you were a steady, you would just get like a very small payday, like $50 for TV. So TV would be a loss money-wise for you.
Yeah, I know that. And that was a rough night, too, because they, you know, that day started, God, I don't know what time, you know, the doors would open and they'd start doing matches, these, you know, the dark matches or whatever. And that would go, I remember there would be, you know, folks, you have to realize that, you know, they would be shooting, you know, they have to get enough material to cover all these shows. So these things would go on, and they would have Hulk come on last because they didn't want people to leave. But you'd see kids who were like, it was like school night, you know. It's 11:30.
37 matches tonight.
Yeah. I mean, boy, did you get your money's worth. But good Lord, you know, that's like enough. And I remember they used to, I think his name was Bob Collins. He was one of the
I remember Bob Collins.
Remember Bob?
Yeah,
and they would you know, they would move the crowd because, you know, it was a long night, and some people were like, all right, I can't stay any longer. But those were just really long nights. And I remember, you know, they would have local jobbers. They would have these guys that would just come to try and get noticed. And I don't know what they got paid, but oh man, they would just get destroyed. And
but it's all relative because in those days, the money you could get more for your money. Today, you get less for your money, and you'll make more money. Everything's relative.
Yeah. I want to talk about when things really did change for you, but you tell a story, and I know you got close to Andre too, and it's just a really sweet story that you know I got to know.
Do you want me to tell it?
Yeah, please.
So Andre takes a liking to me. Andre was the type of guy that he either liked you, he didn't like you.
Yeah.
And if he didn't like you, he would not speak to you. So he happened to like me. So he goes, boss, I stay in the Ramada on 47th Street. Can you pick me up? Will you drive me to TV? So I was doing this for a couple of weeks. And he starts going like this. And he goes, boss, where do you grow up? I go, Brooklyn. He goes, tell me about it. I said, Italian family. My mom and dad live upstairs. My grandma lives in the middle floor. I said, it's all Italian. He goes, take me there. Just like that. Because we had hours. So I call my mother. I go, Ma, I'm bringing this wrestler by. She goes, who? I go, oh, just some new guy. You don't worry about it. I'm just bringing him by. So I didn't tell her it was Andre. So we pull up to the house, and like she's at the second floor window looking up, and I'm driving. So I park right in front. So I get out. She goes, who's with you? Who's with you? So all of a sudden, Andre, it's a Cutlass Sierra. Andre's all squashed in it. Oh, another Cutlass Sierra, Oldsmobile. And Andre
the seat went back.
Yeah. And he gets out, and my mother goes, "Oh my God!" And he was like so great. He was like so gracious to my mother. You know, he started, talking. All he wanted to know was like the traditions and the foods and the different things that you did in Italian.
Did he share a meal? Did you have him for a meal?
No, we didn't have time. We had to stop for like 10 minutes and leave.
Yeah. Did you ever see that movie? It's My Favorite Year.
No, I don't believe.
Oh well, it's a great movie. You got to check it out. But it's
is that an Andre movie?
Huh?
Andre's not in that, is he?
No. But the Princess Bride, which is one of my all-time favorites.
Yeah.
But I was just saying the premise of it is this guy he's supposed to watch this very famous old-time movie star, and he takes him to the land, of Brooklyn. And the whole family shows up. It's a ride. But that scene Andre the Giant in the neighborhood must have just been.
Oh my God!
He was traveled really fast.
He was almost bigger than Hulk Hogan because he was bigger than Hulk Hogan as far as stature. So everywhere he went, he was just like an eyesore. Hulk Hogan was like a movie star. He looked like a superhero when he walked around. Yeah. But to have Andre at your mother's house in Brooklyn, Bensonhurst, where all the houses are attached and all the little old ladies are sitting on the porches. I mean, it was
I was going to say the neighbor that must have traveled fast, and people suddenly decide they need to go for a walk. So we didn't
walk by the
Lombardis.
We didn't stay too long.
Yeah,
we didn't stay too long. But it's a great memory. My mother still talks about it to this day.
That's so awesome.
But my career, when you think about my career, all the characters that I've done, you realize the Steve Lombardi, Brooklyn Brawler, Kimchi with Kamala. Remember that? I think you weren't there for that. Were you there?
Yeah, but I remember that. That must have been a lot of fun because you got to be this other character that nobody knew who you were, and you got to do that same opportunity as Doink. But
this one. You want to hear a good story? My phone rings at home. I picked up. I said, "Hello." He goes, "How you doing, pal? It's Vince." I said, "Yeah, Vince, whatever you need." He goes, "I know you'll take care of it." And I said, "Well, what do you need?" He goes, "I need you to fly to Calgary and wrestle Bret Hart in the main event." He was the world champion at the time.
Yeah.
He goes, "As Doink." That's what he told me. I never had paint on my face. I never did the Doink character, nothing. I said, "Vince, I had no problem wrestling Bret. I've wrestled him before, but it's the paint job." He goes, "Oh, no problem." He goes, "We're going to fly you to Stanford where Jill, the makeup girl, is going to teach you the paint job, give you a diagram, everything you need. Then we're going to fly you to Cleveland where you're going to get the Doink suit from Matt Bourne's wife. And then from Cleveland, we're going to fly you to Calgary where you'll wrestle Bret Hart." That was a tall order.
This is all in one day?
This was all in one day. Fly to Calgary, fly to Stanford, go to the studio, get the little lesson, give me a picture, give me all the paints, then fly to Cleveland, go to baggage claim, get the handoff for the suit, go back onto the plane, and go right to Calgary, get to Calgary, gain 3 hours in Calgary. So that's what made it possible, because you got the hour time difference. Oh my God. The scariest thing was the paint job. Because Doink was the hottest heel at that time. So as soon as they hit the music, you just go out there and just... I mean, Doink was over at one time.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding? Yeah, absolutely.
As a heel.
Yeah.
As a heel.
No, I love that character. I really did. He could get away with that... it was like your scariest nightmare in a sense for a lot of people. And then, but you could get away with the worst, pranks, and then he could be brutal in the ring too, which that character was very over. I think initially people were like, "What the hell?" And then it really did.
I mean, he was a great worker. So anyway, I'm working all these characters, and all the years are passing. I did 17 straight years in the ring, active wrestling. Then I started working behind the scenes. 15 years as a producer in the pre-tape room. Now, I believe when you were there, we had like interview rooms separate, like portable rooms. Yeah, I think that was your.
Yeah, no, they did, and then Howard headed up the event center with those interviews, and then So, but they built those rooms.
Face to face at the office. They had all this different stuff. Yeah. But then they progressed into calling it the pre-tape room, and initially it was Michael Cole. Working there, and it was Michael Hayes, and he hated it. He did not want to be in there, and he used to have trouble getting the talent into the pre-tape room, which is the interview room.
Uh-huh.
So he used to say, Michael, I'll get the guy in there, watch. So I had a great rapport with the boys. So I could bring any wrestler into the room easily. So he's like seeing a light bulb going off in his head. He's like, maybe you should work in the pre-tape room. You know, so give me some goofy job in the pre-tape room. Then he phases out of the pre-tape room. They put Michael Cole in there. Michael Cole's like the head of the pre-tape room. Then Michael Cole don't want to be in there. He wants to be an announcer. Then they bring Jonathan Coachman in. And then it's me and Jonathan Coachman. Then Jonathan Coachman goes to ESPN. Then I got the pre-tape room. I'm in charge of all interviews.
Wow.
15
well,
years.
A lot of people,
years.
And Vince likes people that are multi-talented and wear a few hats. So that must have been quite an education, especially working with those guys. But before we get to your career as it advanced into, from the ring, which you still kept stepping back into. But I have to ask you about that when and you mentioned it before about Bobby was the first one that came to you and told you about that character, the Brawler, or did you help come up with that? How did the
No, I had nothing to do with that. Bobby came up and says, "We're repackaging." Now this is Bobby Heenan. He's a top manager. He's a commentator. He's doing everything. You remember he was like the guy. He goes, "We're going to repackage you. He goes, you're going to be my heel, one of my heels." He goes, "You're going to work against Terry Taylor." He goes, you know how to work now? Now we're going to teach you how to make money. That's what he said to me.
But at that point, was that kind of reaching, a peak for you? This kid who starts out as a jobber and then becomes this, helps launch all these careers along the way, and then you get your opportunity to be a superstar, which we know that roster wasn't very big, and to reach that, what do you remember thinking at that time? You probably couldn't wait to run to a phone.
I'll be honest with you, and I'm not just saying this to make you feel good. When I seen you used to do those recaps, or coming up next, this and this, and tonight we will see Brooklyn Brawler with his manager Bobby Heenan against the Red Rooster. I said to myself, "Oh my God!" And now you put me in the category of Randy Savage in this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and that one. My name was coming out of your lips, and you were plugging me.
Yeah, that's very cool.
It's still on YouTube. They're all on YouTube.
Oh, everything's all on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. But that had
Bobby said, Bobby says, put a stogie in your mouth. I want you to have a cigar in your mouth. Wait till you hear about this one. You're not going to believe this one. But we'll get to it later. When you progress to that, because after we and WB parted ways, my life got even more exciting.
Okay. We'll get to that.
It's crazy.
Huh?
It's crazy.
But what do you remember of that run, though, when you were you were the Brooklyn Brawler? You did other things after that, but did you?
Brooklyn Brawler. I first became the Brooklyn Brawler. My money tripled, quadrupled. I remember going home and telling my wife. I said, "Listen, we got to save every dime. We're making more. We save more." I always tease Terry Taylor. I say, "I bought a home. You bought a Volvo." Because we had different priorities. I bought my first.
Well, a lot of the guys blew their money too with just buying all kinds of stuff because they had never made that kind of money before, and these guys are rock stars. They're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year now. So a lot of people didn't handle it very well. Many put it up their nose.
A lot of them did. A lot of them did, and a lot of them didn't.
Right? No, then you're right. There are others that were very smart about it. Tito Santana is one of those guys. Put his kids to college.
I just FaceTime with Tito 3 days ago.
Yeah, great guy. But as the Brawler, I mean, you got some really great opportunities. You wrestled for the championship, I think twice,
Shawn Michaels, Madison Square Garden.
Yeah. Now let's backing up on that one though. Story. Yeah, but backing up on that also had something to do with the screw job with Brett because he was supposed to be.
I'll tell the story really quick. Not quick, but I'll tell it. Okay, so we're wrestling in Madison Square Garden. Yeah. They're having a battle royal. I'm in the battle royal, but I'm just the guy to get thrown out and this and that. So all of a sudden, Ken Shamrock was scheduled to win the battle royal. Ken Shamrock injured his sternum in his chest, like his bone in his chest or something. He got injured. So the the agents, they call them producers today. We call them agents back then. They would walk into the, I remember it was Lanza and Chief and those kind of guys. They walk into Vince, and I'm right behind him listening in because the door was open. He goes, Vince, Shamrock can't go over. He's hurt. He can't work. Vince takes his little glasses, puts it in the tip of his nose, looks up and goes, put Brooklyn Brawler over. He's local. Not realizing that he promised the winner of the Battle Royal wrestle with the world champion in the next Garden show.
Yeah.
But nobody was remembering that.
Right.
Except me.
So you knew you didn't bring it up before you went in that ring.
Oh no, I just got a memory lapse right there. But I went to the ring. I had the match. I won the Battle Royal, and all the agents are coming up to Jack Ramsey. You'll never get your match, Chief. Wishful thinking, my friend, but you will not get it. So I walk into Vince's office. I say, Vince, you realize I didn't even know this. I said, you advertised the winner of the Battle Royal wrestles the world champion at the next Garden show. He stops for a minute. He looks at me with those little half-moon glasses. He's sitting down there. He looks at me and goes, you got your match. Just like that.
Yeah.
And when he did that, I was like, holy shit. So now I'm supposed to wrestle Bret Hart in the next Garden show. And it was 2 months away. So now, the month before that, in between those 2 months, it's the Montreal Screwjob.
Wow.
Now, the Montreal Screwjob, we all know what happened.
Yeah.
We don't know the inside information because nobody really does except Brett, Vince. But anyway.
But what was the general feeling, Steve? I mean, you were around the boys then. When that happened, did everybody, they all had an opinion, I'm sure. But business was done a certain way. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah, Brett was finishing up, and then I don't know. Apparently, Brett didn't want to drop the belt in Montreal where we were, and then Vince. But whatever they did the screw job and all that went down. But aside from the all the dynamics of that,
you're thinking, I'm never going to get this match, right? When that happened.
Yeah, right. Because Sean was not the Sean that he is today. He was very arrogant, cocky. I'm not going to work with him, that's what I was assuming he was going to say. So now we're getting close. Well, we got a month to go till the Garden. And I remember we were in the Savoy in a bar, and Sean's in there. And I forget if it was Chief or somebody. Hey, Teaspoon. He called him Teaspoon. Hey, Teaspoon, you're working in this Garden show? With the Brooklyn Brawler. No, with Steve Lombardi. Oh, I was the Brooklyn Brawler. With the Brooklyn Brawler. Yeah. And he says, Sean looks at me, and I'm expecting, fuck you, I ain't working with you. That's what I thought he was going to say. But he said, can you super kick? Can you leapfrog? Can you do this? Can you do that? He was so fired up about it.
Really?
I said, I'll do anything you want. Yeah, he was just thinking, you see how his mind was working? His finish is the super kick. If I super kicked him, the people would become unglued. So, what a match we had. It was the first Garden show of DX with Chyna and Triple H on the apron, on the outside of the ring, and me against Shawn Michaels in Madison Square Garden. I remember Undertaker walking in the room, into the dressing room, looking at the lineup, and it shows me in the main event, and then he's underneath me, and he goes, "What the fuck is this?" That's what he said. I was like, "It's not me. I didn't do it. Because nobody wants heat with the Undertaker."
Yeah.
But it's a very, I tell you, it's career. I could not even write. We couldn't write this the way it happened. I mean,
it turned out to be a great match. You weren't going to win it, but geez, I mean, it was a great match and a great memory for you.
Yeah, and he's kicking out on 2.5, and he's selling it. He's doing all these crazy moves, and he's making me look like $1 million.
Yeah.
And then Triple H jumps on the apron. I get to pop him, nail him. Chyna comes in and gives me a Frankenstein. I mean, it was great. It was like,
did you have was the whole family there? Was Brooklyn well represented?
Oh yeah, it was Brooklyn Brawler Signs. All my brothers and my mom was there. Everybody was there.
Oh, man.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal to me, anyway. I always tell Sean. I say, Sean, it was the highest point of my career, maybe the lowest of yours. He goes, no, it wasn't. He goes, I enjoyed it. Yeah. But it was great. I mean, come on. The Rock's first match, Mark Henry's first match, Ricky Steamboat's first match, Owen Hart's first match in WWE, Bret Hart's first match in WWE. I mean, all the things I've done, it's insane. I beat Ultimate Warrior once. How about that one? One of a good Ultimate Warrior story. They come to the show, they take me into the room, to the side, and they say, we're going to put you over Ultimate Warrior. We want to test his attitude.
Now, how far into his career with the WWF was he?
They were just going to give him the big push. They were like right on the edge of giving him the big push, and they wanted to see if he was going to be, easy to work with by seeing if he will job to, let me beat him without bitching. But I liked Jim. He was a great guy. I mean, I really liked him, and I kept this a secret for many, many years. And I took him in the room. I said, Jim, listen, they're going to ask you to lose to me. What the fuck, man? What's going on? This and that. I said, no, Jim, listen. They're going to test your attitude. Just say yes. No problem. Please do that. That conversation never happened. That's what I told him. And he did it. And then when he came in the Hall of Fame, I know I'm jumping around a little. And then when they put Ultimate Warrior in the Hall of Fame, I walked into the dressing room. He was all alone. I walk into the dressing room and he starts crying. He cries. He goes, "What you did for me?" He goes, I'll never forget what you did for me. He goes, "And you made me prepared to stand up as I tell the entire audience how you told me that they told you that they were going to beat me to test my attitude." I said, "Jim, don't. I'm still working here, and they're going to think that I'm telling the information." He goes, and he's just going, "Fuck. It was 30 years ago. Who gives a fuck?" I said, "Jim, listen, please." For me, please don't do that because I don't want to get any heat. I was going to say, tell them hardly anything, but you go right back to telling me. That's the way I felt back then.
Yeah.
So he goes, "Well, be prepared to stand up anyway." And he just said, "Where's Steve Lombardi? Please stand up." And I stood up in the audience. And he goes, "I want to thank Steve for taking all my abuse and having a great attitude about it. Thank you." That's what he said.
Oh.
So it was so touching to me. It was so touching to me that he did that.
Yeah, and a couple of days later, he was gone. Oh.
Yeah, yep. A couple of days later, he was gone. Right after that story, I got a picture. I got a picture with him the day before he died. But that's what things happen. And did you hear his promo on Raw before he died?
No. Never saw.
He had a promo. He had a promo on Raw because we had the WrestleMania. The Hall of Fame. Then we had the WrestleMania. We had the Raw, and then he came on the Raw and he said, "Even to the day when the Warrior's heart stops beating, he will always be here." That's what he said in his promo. Mm-hmm. It was very, very ironic, and then 2 days later,
I don't know. That's just incredible. Steve, as much, and you became, it's funny because you talk about the progression and all that you had, you went through. Was there a point where you became kind of this, I don't know, as a seasoned veteran, that it wasn't just what you were able to do in the ring? What did you help a lot of these guys? Just like you said, what you did for Jim, you went to him and said, "Look, I got to test you. Don't go crazy about it. Just do it." Right. Did you help a lot of other guys along the way by, in a sense, smartening them up to things that went on that helped them along the way? The ones that you really thought had talent that were going to be able to contribute.
I always felt that if I was telling them something that they would do that might hurt their career, but they weren't doing it maliciously or intentfully, they were going to do it. So I would always want to help them like a brotherhood and help them and say, "Don't do this because of this. And if you do this, they're going to perceive it as this." I did that a lot to guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did it anyway.
Well, and I'm sure there were those that you wouldn't waste your time on because
no.
There were a lot of those that have traveled through the company that that squandered it.
Right, and they didn't last. They never lasted because they kept their attitudes the way they were, and they're gone. Yeah, they were gone. But everything's great. 32 years. Oh my God. If I only bought Apple when I was younger, Apple stock. No, I did very well. I saved all my money.